When you need someone to love you, here I am.
So one of the things that I appreciate particularly about my home community, Center for Spiritual Living Santa Rosa, is the choices that the music director makes for music. Deborah was just spot on. Yes. That song describes your community. So we're going to move forward. I'm going to use the PowerPoint for the first time in a few years. But I'm very excited to be here. As some of you know from greeting me at the door, I'm going to experiment on you all. I'm going to try out an idea that's been developing in my mind and my heart that only my closest friends know about. And they think it's great because, of course, they're my closest friends. But I'm going to see what you think about it. And I would love for you to ask me questions afterwards, to offer comments and feedback, because it really is an idea that feels right, but that I need to get a little clearer in my mind and then how I share it with others. So I'm talking about intention this morning, but I'm talking about it differently, I think, than we sometimes think about it. I intend to eat better. I intend to lose 20 pounds. I intend to whatever. You can fill in whatever your favorite intention blank is. The one that I want to give as a personal example of how I'm looking at it differently, which I just worked on recently, so I've begun the process. I want to exercise more regularly. That's an outward-looking intention. I want to do more exercising. So then I say, why? Well, because I want my body to be healthy. Good reason, but still external in the many ways. So then I say, why again? Because I want to watch my grandkids grow up, graduate high school, maybe even college if that's their choice. So that's a little closer to what matters to me. But as I was reflecting on this talk, I decided there was still something deeper that I hadn't found, some value that would empower that I want to exercise more. So I have my green sitting chair, and one morning I sat, and then I realized something. The best reason I have, the value that undergirds my desire to exercise, is my gratitude for this amazing body temple. Why would I not care for it? Why would I not want it to be clean and fresh and well lit and all of those qualities? Because I truly am grateful to happen to have this form in this moment. That's a value of gratitude and awe. And when that value undergirds my exercise, I just bought a smartwatch on Prime Days on Amazon so I can track my steps. And I'm going to schedule in exercising because I appreciate this body temple. And that's the value that empowers my intention. So let's look at my definition of intention. It's pretty short. Embodying one's values, using them to guide one's thoughts and actions in the world. It's not just a off the top of my head thing. It's what guides me based upon the values that matter to me. So there's a lot in that, so we're going to go through it bit by bit. First, embodying one's values. If you don't know what your core values are, How the heck are you going to embody them and live them? One of the things that brought me here to speak at Unity, besides Deanna's an amazingly vibrant, just remarkable minister, is that she let me know that you as a community have identified your core values. And not only have you identified them, but you're using them. They're showing up. There we go. They're showing up on your website. They're in your service. And I'll bet if I met you on the street and said, hey, I saw you at Unity. What are your core values? You could probably tell me what they are, because they're becoming a part of this community. And as those values, connectivity, inclusion, authenticity guide you, they become ways that you choose among different possible decisions or actions or thoughts. And that has magic to it. I have a person in my life, a family member, that I've been challenged by for years. And there's certain things that this person does that just push at least half of the buttons in my being. So we kind of get along, but I'm just as happy when this person goes her own way and I go my own way. And I suspect from the laughter, you all probably have at least one of those folks in your life. This year, my personal mantra, though it's not a core value, but yeah, it kind of is a core value, a way of expressing it. It started as compassion. It's become ahimsa, which means not harming. It's a Sanskrit term. It's one that Gandhi used and popularized. And so I've been taking in each morning as I sit, ahimsa, not harming in thought or deed, not judging, not saying, oh, that person, oh, how can they do that? But just trying to stay in love and presence, acceptance, and letting it be. I haven't said anything at all to this person since I adopted ahimsa as one of my ways. We're much more at ease with each other. I'm not noticing all the stuff quite so much. Maybe now there's 2 buttons pushed and I can handle that. And so because I've embodied that value, ahimsa, it's shifting my life without my really doing anything, but I'm being that value. So I want you to breathe that in for a moment. We have this way, at least in Science of Mind and maybe in other parts of New Thought as well, of feeling like we really need to do something big and important, that there's so much need in the world, we've really got to do something. I suggest that if you breathe into what you know matters, your core heart values, that makes a difference. I'm not saying don't do big things, but don't judge yourself for not doing enough. Breathe into your values. Breathe into your values the way this community is breathing into its values. It radiates out. It permeates who and how you are. It's stunningly, magnificently beautiful. So, Unity Marin knows its values. Yes, you do. And they are connectivity, inclusivity, and authenticity. And I'm absolutely certain that those of you who have been here a while can recite them for me. They're what guide this community. But you're doing even more than saying, oh, they're here, I'm looking at them here, and you're looking at them up here. They're more than just words on a page. You go beyond the core bit. You go into what they mean. And they're showing up with that magic the same way that I talked about ahimsa. This is a PowerPoint that I had fun making. Connectivity, there's your first value. Inclusivity, your next. Authenticity, your third core value. And undergirding all of it is your teaching at Unity in Marin. When I looked at that after I went, phew, I did it, I realized that there are some wonderful symbolic meanings in that graphic. First, the foundation is the teachings of unity. You're not just going all over the place with all kinds of ideas. You're grounded in your unity teachings. And you're open at the top. That's a phrase that in Science of Mind we use all the time, that we're not stuck in dogma. We're open and alive to what's possible. And there's a sense of embrace in that graphic, that you really are a welcoming, open community. I know it's not always easy. There are times when I'm just as grouchy and cranky as anybody. But you come back, as I attempt to come back to who I actually am. And there's power in that. So I really want you to acknowledge and celebrate how you are being in the world. It's absolutely doable, and I wish it were more common than it is. So I'm going to take a little bit of time to talk about the details of your values. I hope. Oh, technology. There we go. So the first value is connectivity, and the way you initially describe it is living in an awareness of unity with all. That's your tagline. But then, you don't just live in the tagline. You add examples of what that looks like in your community. How do I do connectivity? And there are 3 examples. I'm not going to read all of them. I just picked one. We are open to divine inspiration and actively engage with spirit. You're connected in the oneness. One of the ways you do it is that openness and engagement. Inclusivity, I'm not going to read all of it because I think you know it well. But in that diverse, safe space with diversity, you say, as Unity in Marin, we are enriched and become more as we consciously question our assumptions. I have a story to tell on myself, and I don't mind laughing at myself. Sometimes that really helps. Earlier this summer, I headed up to Reading, where a friend of mine has started an independent spiritual center. And I wanted to see what she was up to. I stayed at an Airbnb, delightful place close by, and had my own bedroom, and then there was another rental bedroom and the bathroom in between. As it happened, when I got there, there was a couple already renting the second bedroom, and we shared the bathroom. I started noticing that the bathroom door was always closed. Don't those people understand that if the door is closed, I can't tell whether or not it's in use, and then I have to either knock, or if it's nighttime, look and see, is there a light on underneath there? And I got so stirred up about that couple who, as it happened, I never met. They were either sleeping or in their room or off somewhere. I never did see them once. The last day that I was there, I was visiting with the host of the Airbnb, and we were chatting about different things. And I happened to mention, without the judgmentalness of it, just kind of as an aside, gee, the door is always closed, and it's kind of awkward. I wish they would leave the door open when they're done. she looked at me and said, actually, Tara, I'm the one who closes the door because this wonderful dog here loves to play with the toilet paper. And if I don't close the door, I go through so much TP, it's ridiculous. An assumption, kind of innocuous, but so off base, it colored how I thought about the couple across the hall from me, and was nonsense, complete, utter nonsense. So paying attention to what your assumptions are and not assuming them would be really helpful. And then the last piece is authenticity, what I call, oops, thank you, Carolyn. Yes, there, all right. There we go. I got so excited about my TP story. The last one is authenticity, or being real. I had another beautiful example of, on my trip up to Redding, I detoured to Grover Hot Springs to camp for a couple of nights. And the check-in ranger and I got to talking. He'd been there for more than 40 years. He started probably in his 20s. And I found out on his morning round the next day that he was doing his work without pay. And that was because he so valued the beauty and the environment and the gift of nature to the campers who came that he could get by without pay until the state budget got sorted out, because he couldn't possibly close down the park to people using it. Because his value was so solid, it was more important than his getting a certain amount of money every month to do it. That's living your values and being real. Even though some of us might think, wow, could I do that? And it's an interesting question. Are my values so important that they take precedence over other things? The other piece I want to say briefly about authenticity is when we are who we are, with love and compassion, but truly being present without, oh, I'm a minister, oh, I'm an Oma, oh, I'm an oldest daughter, oh, I'm whatever. Without the roles, being as we are present, that opens the possibility that other people will feel safe also being themselves. That our willingness to be vulnerable makes it possible for others to be vulnerable. And that's how we connect. Not with the masks on, but taking the roles off. So take another breath. Just settle in for a moment. There's a lot here. And part of why I bring it to you is because you're already doing this work. So now I'm going to go back to the subtitle of this talk, Like-Minded or Like-Intended. I came to New Thought back in 2002 when I found the Redding Center for Spiritual Living. It's one of the largest Science of Mind centers, even though it's in redneck Redding. I immediately felt at home. And when I was there for the first time, they had a practice of singing their children out to youth church with You Are the Face of God, which I suspect you know, the Karen Drucker song. I wept and wept. And like many of you, I felt at home in that center. One of the main reasons being it talked about being a philosophy, and the various threads of my spirituality were acceptable. I didn't need to cut off this and amplify that to fit in. It was a philosophy, a way of looking at life. Then I started to hear the phrase, like-minded. One of the things we love about the center is we're all like-minded. At first I went, that's cool. And then I started to wonder about that phrase, like-minded. Because we now have AI, artificial intelligence in our world. Every now and then I play with it very carefully. So I asked ChatGPT, what does like-minded mean? And this is what the computer had to say. Like-minded refers to people who have similar opinions, interests, or attitudes. When individuals are described as like-minded, it means they share common viewpoints or goals, making it easier to understand each other and collaborate effectively. Here are some exaggerated ways to look at like-minded, because my bias is I don't like it anymore. We agree in most, if not all, areas. People are welcome here if they believe that. If they don't, well. Where do I point? There, whoops. Back we go. Okay, we expect people to understand what we're saying because they already know it. Jargon, slang, phrases that we use all the time, like in Science of Mind, spiritual mind treatment. We talk about that on Sunday service. If you're brand new to Science of Mind and you hear spiritual mind treatment, I begin to imagine what that might mean. They're doing something to my brain. They're treating my brain to make me spiritual, perhaps. And so that assumption that people know what we're talking about is another part of like-minded. And this last one, I challenge people in my class with this last one. If we didn't agree, we couldn't be friends. Because I think sometimes that's how people feel. When that shows up, I remember a close friend of mine who's gay and liberal and outspoken as all get out. One of their best friends is a born-again Christian. In that theology, homosexuality is a sin. And yet these two men are best friends. Because like your first value, they get the unity, the allness, and the variations, the individualized expressions aren't the heart of what is. It's that being human piece. The other part, I'll read again the last assumption of ChatGPT is when people are the same, it's easier to work together. This was a busy summer. I went to family camp with my daughter and her wife and their two kids. And at the camp, each night, there was some sort of campfire program. Usually, it was a talent show or singing or something. One night, they had I'm going to get his title right, they had Eugene Whitlock, who is the Chief People and Culture Officer / Associate Vice Chancellor of Human Resources at UC Berkeley. He spoke for an hour, and unlike some of the diversity, equity, inclusion folks that I've heard, he used data to support some of what he had to say. One of the studies that he talked about was a study that looked at how people discussed things with their friends and with people that disagreed with them and the quality of their conversation. Bet you can guess what that research found. If you're talking with your friend, you'll say things like, you know what I mean. Yeah, that's right, you get it. And the content of the conversation may be kind of superficial because you know you're talking to someone who gets it, so you can speak in shorthand. if you have that same conversation as I did this earlier this week with a friend of mine from a totally different theology, he asked me, Tara, what are the spiritual practices in Science of Mind? And I took a breath. And then I had to very carefully think about and describe what we use in our spiritual practice. I couldn't just say, oh, spiritual mind treatment, meditation, and circulation. He would have looked at me and said, I know what meditation is. What are those other two things you just said? And so it forced me to think and get more clearly about what we do in Science of Mind, at the same time that I was explaining to him the answers the best I could to his question. So when we have diversity, we actually learn more, as you know, in your way of welcoming and growing through learning about people who are different. So this particular like-minded, I think, is a 20th century cultural view. I think in this 21st century, we need to be like-intended. And I'm going to suggest, you're going to recognize all of this right away. Here come your values. This is the heart of how you build this community. And it's not about, well, this is what we believe, and if you believe that, come here. It's about we value inclusivity, we value authenticity, we value connectivity. If you share those values, please join us. And then let's explore our beliefs and our opinions and come to understand each other better with our differences. Because it's not a litmus test of what you believe to make you acceptable. It's, do you hold values that we value in this community? And values are far more, they're a bigger container than a checklist of beliefs and opinions. So again, bravo, unity. So I'm going to go back to my graphic. And I'm going to use it first to acknowledge you. And I need to go back to it. I see it. Why don't you see it? Ah, here it comes. Come on. Oh, the whole thing. Come on. All the values and the foundation of your teaching. So, now I want to go back to what this feels like for me and what I saw as you welcomed me into this community and the feel of this environment. This is who you are. You are open, you are grounded, you are welcoming. It's who you are. So we're going to move into meditation, and Jeremy, I would be delighted if you would do your magic. And I'm going to say a couple of things and then claim 3 very simple words. And I want you to sit with them in stillness for just a bit. So this says to me, this graphic, grounded in the teachings of unity, aligned with its core values, this community is spirit-led, welcoming, and real. The 3 words again. Spirit-led, welcoming, real. Take those into your heart and be with those for just a bit. Spirit-led, welcoming, real. the allness of life, spirit-led, welcoming, real. The power, the presence, the possibility of that divine essence, that allness, that life, spirit, that infuses all that is within us, around us, beyond us, undeniably present, always. I celebrate this truth in the way it shows up in this community, this unity in Marin. Warm-hearted, welcoming, clear, and growing. In that way, it mirrors the divine and expresses the divine uniquely and powerfully, moment to moment to moment. Glory, hallelujah. It is good. I have spoken this word, I celebrate it, and I'm grateful for it, and I let it be. And so it is. Amen. All right. Thank you all. And please, talk to me. Tell me about it afterwards.